Greetings, Sasha. This is your final critique for Art 828 Creative Photography. And looking at the work, I see a nice bold pop of colors, what jumps out at me. And reading your artist statement, you talked a lot about color, and you certainly are showing it in the work. The other thing I see, very abstract photographs, and of what seems to be predominantly to me flowers. There might be some other things in here, but they're all well composed, interesting, engaging, eye-catching, and they really compel me to want to look further, so that is what I will do. Look at this very narrow depth of field and the nice use of the greens, yellows, yellow-greens. It creates such a harmonious feel, that analogous color scheme. And then the textures, I like we have the softness and then the sharpness, these lines here, and then back to the softness. Moving on here, we see this pine cone in a tree, and again, I really like the shallow depth of field. It helps create different textures. And texture is not something like I often think about with color photographs. That's one of the things I usually say when we go from color to grayscale, black and white photographs. We lose color, but we spend so much more time paying attention to texture. But these images are in color, and they have a wonderful color, and they have a wonderful pop, but they also have a wonderful texture to them. I really like this image too. I just love this pine cone nestled in the bark of this tree. Now this image gets a little bit closer, a little bolder, and I don't know if you're reaching the point where you're starting to play more with the color, because it looks like you're reaching this point where the colors are becoming somewhat unnatural. So, and that's not bad. I actually look at this photograph and I like it, but I react to this photograph more as an abstract expressionist sort of painting. And this is the one I really relate to, as you talked about Penelope Imbrico's work, her range work. This piece has that sort of feel, that sort of almost a pop art feel to it. And it pushes things more abstract and puts more of this emphasis on color and less about form and object. So I do get a sense of where you're seeing this relationship between Penelope Imbrico's range and your work. But most of the other works I'm a little less connected to it, though this one also I think does fit in that range sense. So are you really intentionally pushing these colors? I don't think this is naturalistic, though there's nothing to tell me that it's unnatural. It just to me feels a little bit pushed. But I don't think that's bad at all. I'm actually really curious and interested and enjoy this composition, enjoy the photograph, and enjoy the very abstract nature of it. It makes me curious as to what it is, but not in a negative way. I'm not like, oh, I have to know. No, I kind of want to know, but I want to know by looking at the photograph. I want to look at it more and see it more and figure it out through those means. And this is a nice push-pull with this image. See, this is the one where I don't see as much Imbrico's range work. This seems to me overtly naturalistic. And I'm really trying to put my finger on what that difference is, because when I first saw you reference the range portfolio and looking at your work, I saw a loose relationship, but not a tight relationship. But looking closer, those previous two images, I see a very tight relationship. This is back to a more loose relationship. Now, we're not here to make work like other people. We're here to do work of our own. So, I don't know why I'm getting so caught up on that, but yeah. No, I love this photograph. I love, again, the narrow depth of field, your push, your pull, little softness, sharpness, softness. There's a very nice sense of composition, nice use of color, and a nice use of aperture to help control it. This is one I think, this actually feels a little bit like off to me. Like the other, this one has such a nice, smooth, like it seems very intentional, this narrow depth of field and this soft and hard. There's a nice balance between. This one, for some reason, feels like I need a little bit more in focus. Like I'm not appreciating the out of focus, then the sharp, and then the out of focus in this one. it almost jars me, and it feels unintentional. It feels like a mistake to me, and I'm not quite sure why that is. I don't know if we need a even larger aperture, if that's possible. Yeah, you're only at 5.6 in this one. And this one's also 5.6 at 100 millimeters. So this is, I think you said it's a 100 millimeter lens. So yes. So on this one, I think maybe I'd almost go to 2.8 to make this blur seem a bit more intentional. Though I like the composition, and I like the red, the yellow, and the green color scheme. I think is very harmonious. It just I don't know if I almost prefer this being focused and let the rest of it go out of focus. Maybe that's what it is. So this one, seems off. Now see, this one I really like. This has the pistol. I believe that's the pistol. Really sharp. And then we have this yellow, somewhat soft. And then all this stuff really soft. And I think this does work very well. I like the composition. I like the feel of it. I like the abstraction of it. In this one, we have almost everything in focus, and almost like a little bit narrower depth of field. So you're still at 5.6. This is, I think, one where you could have maybe gone down to 2.8. If your lens goes that large, you may not actually have that on your lens. I'm not sure what your largest aperture is. But it could be fun to actually play with, or maybe even move a little bit closer in this image. The soft is just a little bit soft, and again, this is one where it feels almost less intentional. Most of them feel very intentional, very tight, very considered. This one seems a little bit off, certainly worth more exploration, though. I mean, that is beautiful form, beautiful color, and I like the little bits of green up here to complement these reds and violets that you have predominantly. And this photograph is, yes, nice sharpness. I really love this texture, this detail, this edge that I see, and how it flows in and out of focus. See that? It's nice. There's a nice smooth transition in there. Nice radial. Again, a very use of color. I don't know, are you playing at all with the saturation as far as increasing or decreasing saturation? I don't know that it matters that much. I'm just curious if you had to manipulate these images very much, or if they came out of the camera, this colorful. I do tend to think Canons have a bit more vivid color rendition than Nikon. It looks like you're using a Canon. I have no idea what I'm looking at here, but this is beautiful. Almost looks like a photograph of a virus or something like that. That's a nice composition, though. It almost feels abstract expressionistic. And we get a sense of space here, which I don't necessarily get in the other ones. I think that they feel a bit flatter. This form really popping out, and the sharpness and the crispness and the variety of color in there and value in there. And this background, seems very soft and splashy. That's nice, very nice photograph. This is nice too. Such a warm orange in it. Yeah. So, but good textures, good use of line. I like the curved linear lines. These radiating lines from it. I like this mid-tone light range, and then a little bit of darker range down here. So, all right, moving along. This is just a beautiful photograph, absolutely gorgeous. I just love the saturation. I love the transition. I think what makes it here, obviously the sharpness of this and the textures and details on that are fabulous. But I like how it's juxtaposed with this nice soft gradation of a tint of green to a much more saturated green to a shade of green. That gradation is so smooth and offsets this form, because you have this almost a similar gradation here from a little thicker to thinner, and then this overall bigger thing. That's a nice photograph. And the lichens are great. Now, they don't have as much pop, and I don't know what it is. Maybe, I'm a big fan of lichen. Person who grew up around bodies of water and forests, I enjoy walking through the woods and the beaches and checking out the lichens. It seems so much less saturated, and I don't know that that's bad. It is different. I'd be curious to see how this worked with the other images if we punched up that saturation. Brought out some more of these greens, but I don't know that we'd be doing a service to this photograph. It just seems so different from the other ones. All right. But yeah, this one I'd be curious to see what it'd look like if everything were sharp. If we used f/22 or something like that as our aperture. I don't know that'd make it bad. I'm not distracted by it all. But sometimes you just get curious, like, oh, would it be better that way, or is this really good this way? Curious. And I really like this form too. There are really lovely colors, and again, really nice textures. And the interesting thing here is you have in focus soft textures and in focus sharp textures, and then you have this nice out of focus soft texture, which helps balance out that. And I really kind of like this image. I am a little the negative space I don't think is effective. I don't know if it would be better if it was on just white. I don't think I want black. I don't want that much punch to it. I tend to think maybe if we just had all white. And this is a little distracting down here too, at least as it is. You can maybe zoom out and have a little bit more because it looks like a shadow of it. And I could actually see that shadow. I think that might be more interesting. Or we need to just soften that so I can focus more on this form. But this isn't looking up here for me. This is very strongly composed. Again, texture, color, softness. Again, it's one of those images I'm like, oh, I want more saturation. More saturation is not the answer for everything. But you have so many very saturated images. I wonder if this one would feel a bit more part of it if it were. But I really like the composition. Again, I like the textures and the very effective use of narrow depth of field. So, all right, and that is your portfolio there. So I would say good job, Sasha. I'm sorry we had some problems here in Flickr, and we never really resolved those. We don't know what happened there. Hopefully it didn't hinder your process and learning too much. Probably hindered our communication a little bit, definitely. But thank you for sticking with it and bringing these wonderful photographs here. And best of luck to you.